Hello everyone. Today on Scottish Memories we are talking to actress Kirsty Strain. So how are you all? I hope you are all happy and healthy and safe out there, wherever you are. Just before we get started, please remember, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button on both podcast and YouTube. It would mean the world. It really, really would. And if you enjoy the video, remember to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment as well. But today, I am over the moon to be talking to actress Kirsty Strain. You may recognise Kirsty from things like Taggart, Native Son, Burnistoun, River City, Anna and the Apocalypse, Outlander, Scot Squad, Cops and Monsters and Doctors, to name but a few. Kirsty, hello, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for doing this. It's a pleasure to have you. Plus, I think it's probably been about 10 years since I saw you last.
Yeah, time flies. It has been a long time.
Really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how have you been?
Yeah, pretty good. So all things considered, yeah. I've been kept quite busy during the lockdown period because I work as a voice coach as well, and I've been able to do that all online. So that's kind of kept me occupied and out of trouble, shall we say?
It's good to have some, nice projects in the background, because I think that myself, it's been redecorating the house, because me and my wife's got a little one on the way now.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's like without, and I'm not, making lockdown a good thing, but I wouldn't have been able to get everything ready, So I've just taken advantage of the situation we've been in. So it's good to have that little thing going on in the background, just to keep going mad.
Yeah.
So we'll jump right in. You're a Glasgow lass.
I'm a Glasgow pride.
Glasgow Pride. So what was growing up? Did you get a chance to explore Scotland? Was there a lot of staycations, or were you?
Yeah, I mean, primarily it was all staycations for us for years. It really was. But just one of the first things I was thinking about this, and one of the first things I really remember about growing up in Glasgow was we would go to the Barras every Sunday. My dad loves a bargain, and back in those days, the Barras market, I don't know what it's like now because I've not been for years, but it used to be a real buzz down at the Barras. There used to be a real buzz about it, and we'd go into the Rumble and Tum for our lunch, and I think the Rumble and Tum's still there. We'd go there for our lunch, and then there was this other little bit where you'd go and get all your seafood. You'd get your mussels, your whelks, your crab sticks and all that, and then there was another little bit where you'd get freshly made donuts right off, so they'd be nice and hot when you got them. And so that was my sort of experience of a Sunday, family Sunday outing, was going down the Barras market. And
It's funny. There's obviously being in Edinburgh, being in high school. There's outside of town. There's East Fortune Market. Nowhere near as well known as the Barras. The Barras is kind of an institution in itself, really, isn't it?
yeah,
I remember when I was young, going there with mum and dad and growing up, and again the donuts off the side of the thing, and stalls that sold, virtually everything. And like you said, I don't know what the Barras is like now, but the market there, it's just not this. It's not the same.
it's not the same now. I know. I think my dad still goes down every now and again to check out what's happening, but like I've not been down there like that for a long time. But I did go back maybe a couple of years ago. I just wanted to see if the Rumble and Tum was still there, and I couldn't believe it was still there after all that time. So yeah.
Were you always looking for a bar? Did you end up coming home with random stuff?
My dad still comes home with random stuff. We kid him on, he's a bit of a tinker actually. I think it's just how he is, but that was always kind of fun, so I kind of love marketplaces now because of that, any kind of marketplaces and car boots and things like that. And there's quite a few places that still have like car boots and things. There's a car boot down at Ayr, and so those kinds of things are always kind of fun for me still to kind of troll about. And I never had my dad's instinct for bartering though, for the old haggle. I didn't take that on board. Didn't listen closely enough to that. But that was kind of the family experience, was kind of going down to the market and seeing what was there. And then kind of older, I've kind of was thinking about this as well in terms of Scotland's beaches are incredible. I mean, some of the beaches that we've seen that we've got on our doorstep, they're just beautiful. Like down at Luss, I love going down to Luss and the beach at Luss. near Loch Lomond. It's gorgeous. And then Troon's got a lovely beach, and then we'd go to Lags a lot. I don't know, we always found ourselves in Lags. It's like the family trip. We'll go to Lags, they've got a beach.
It's only from doing these and chatting to various people. Obviously at this end we've got Portobello Beach, which is a lovely beach, but the more and more people that I chat to, the more and more nice beaches I hear about all around Scotland. And it's funny, it's not something you picture.
No.
Lovely beaches.
And I think even when the weather's not great, it's still brilliant. You know, the atmosphere and the energy. Like, I love going down to Oban, because when you go to Oban, you've got all the surrounding isles, and particularly Iona. The beach at Iona is just stunning. And if you get a really nice day there, it's just breathtaking. It's a really brilliant experience. And that's just a brilliant experience overall, because you can take the ferry out and go to all the surrounding isles and stuff like that. But for me as well, a lot of my knowledge of Scotland is based around where theatres are, or where I've done filming before, or where I've been filming. And I was thinking about that as well, some of the experiences that I've had and places that I've been. And one short film in particular I did with the visual artist Rachel McLean. She had us filming in Duart Castle in the Isle of Mull in the middle of the night. So they would lock it down at night, because I think it's open as a visitor centre, and then they would lock it down at night, no heating, freezing cold, up in the middle of the night to do night shoots. And it was really atmospheric, a little bit creepy at first, but really atmospheric. And Mull's beautiful as well, the Isle of Mull. So I had a lovely experience filming there. And then you've got Tobermory, and so. I love. We're very lucky with names. I think you said Tobermory. We've got such cool names. Roll off the tongue in such a nice. It's so funny, because I remember that as well as a kid. That was another thing. Adults used to think it was funny and really cute to get us to say like "och and shugel" and stuff like that.
Echo feckin'.
Echo feckin', achtermachty. I remember this wee voice, "och and shugel," and they would go, "Oh, that's so cute." So I knew about these places long before I ever got to visit any of them, just because the names alone are quite fun, aren't they?
They are. So when you're travelling about, obviously, I mean, you've done an incredible amount of work around Scotland and things like that as well. Is there places where if you're filming, if you've got a project that you're kind of like, love it when I go there, or do you have wee favourite spots?
I think anywhere where there's water or hills, or I'm a real nature person.
We're not short of any of that.
No, I know, and I think that we're so privileged with that. I mean, I love nature walks, and I'm getting really into hill walking now. So anywhere where there's hills nearby, I'm really excited by that, because I think, if there's a day off, I'll definitely go for a climb. And I'm trying to get myself ready to maybe tackle some Munros. I've never done the Munros, any Munros. And I'd love to get my stamina up to. So I'm on starter hills, so Connick Hill, Ben Ann. I live right next to the Campsie Fells, so that's fantastic. And that's one of the things I love about Scotland as well. We've got this kind of city life, access to a real buzzing city life, but then you go half an hour, 45 minutes in the other direction, and you're completely out in landscape and nature and beauty and quiet. And to be in that position, to have the best of both worlds, I think is a real privilege. I just think we're so lucky to have it on our doorstep.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I did a couple of videos recently where I just went on a drive. Some of them have been around town, and some of them have been heading out of town. And the amount of people that have commented from around the world that have went, because I don't really edit it down. It's about the journey. You know what I mean? And 10, 15 minutes, I mean, Edinburgh's a lot smaller than Glasgow, but 10, 15 minutes and you're in the countryside, with nothing but fields round about you. You're absolutely right, we're so lucky. And obviously Glasgow's a fair bit bigger than Edinburgh, but you're right, 20 minutes, half an hour, and you've got these beautiful views round about you. We are really lucky that sort of way.
Yeah, definitely. And like, it doesn't even matter the weather. Like today, the sun is splitting the hills, and that's great, and you get all these beautiful views. But I've done hills when the rain is battering off you, and you're up and you're and the atmosphere and just the whole thing. So that can be just as thrilling when you're working against the elements of the Scottish weather. And it really is true, this whole 4 seasons in one day thing. And you've got to, 1 minute you've got you've got to go out in layers. Got to have layers, right?
Yeah.
And then it'll be right. Okay, so it's sun splitting, and then the next thing you need your jacket back on, but it's just magic. And especially, I think if you're on, I've been on jobs where we've been at those dusk times of the, like, we're just coming into sunrise, and you're getting a lot, and you're just getting an opportunity to just look out, and it's just, it's majestic.
It really is. And I mean, I'm gonna pick your brains a little bit about Glasgow, because I know Glasgow, obviously, and the kind of line that you and me are in. I get pulled through to Glasgow quite a lot for auditions and things like that, because that seems to be more of the heart of where the Scottish industry is in that sort of way. But that's as much as my knowledge goes, really. I know places where, right, okay, that audition's there, bits like that. But when it comes to the character and the place, I don't really know it. So what sort of place in Glasgow do you think really show the heart of Glasgow?
Oh man, it depends on what you're looking for. Do you know what I mean? What are you looking for? Are you looking to see a slice of real sort of Glasgow life, or are you looking to see a bit of city buzz, or what I mean?
Because a lot of the people that ask me questions, they want me to do the same kind of videos I do about Edinburgh, about Glasgow, but I don't have the knowledge. I don't know where to go. It's good to say, oh, that's got a great bit of history there, you know what I mean? Or obviously the Clyde's got an incredible history of it, with everything there and things. But it's a city that I don't think you could think of two cities that are so close to each other, with Edinburgh and Glasgow, but have two very unique, different personalities, which is very lucky in that. I mean, so if someone was going to come and they had a day, what sort of place you say, you know what, you need to go see that?
I mean, I think going around just the different parts of it, like you've got, obviously, like the West End is really popular for its restaurants and bars and all that kind of thing, but then you've got up and coming areas. You go into Finnieston now, and that's great, and that's got a buzz about it. But then you go in the other direction. You go towards Stronggate, and you go towards, like, you go back up towards the Barras. It's a totally different atmosphere. And then you've got the Necropolis, which is really atmospheric. The oldest house in Glasgow is still taking visitors. It's still there, and you can go in, and the whole atmosphere in there. And there's some of the bus tours actually are really good. I didn't realise, I didn't know that much about my own homestead until a friend came from Dublin, came to visit, and I was like, well, what we'll do is, like, can we do one of the bus tours? I was like, fair enough. And it took us all the way through Glasgow and stop at different stops, and I was like, that was sort of even my first sort of eye-opener and experience of the city, because I hadn't really explored it. I think what happens when you live somewhere a lot of the time, you have your little pockets of places that you know and places that you go, where you'll meet your friends. You have sort of this bog standard, and then that's kind of as far as you'll go. And then a visitor comes in, and you're like, oh yeah, I really should show them the city and sort of show them around. And then you go, God, I've not been here in years. I've not been there. I've never seen that. We've got a lot of nice parks as well, like Kelvin Grove Park's lovely, and there's the bandstand down there. There's a lot of really good venues for live music and things like that. We have a lot of really good theatres.
You guys are a lot luckier than us at this side of things, because a lot of our live venues for music are getting shut down. We're really starting to run out of them, whereas it's something that Glasgow's holding on to really a lot better than us. You guys are a lot luckier that way.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of buzz. Like you've got the Stand Comedy Club as well, so for other types of entertainment. And then Kelvin Grove's great with the bandstand, because again, in the nice weather, and you can go down, and they'll have live music on and events on there. There's a real sort of kind of a buzz. And then like say with theatres as well, there's some really fantastic theatres here, although Edinburgh's got some brilliant theatres as well, and obviously it's the theatre capital. It's the capital of Scotland, but it's also, I would say, the theatre capital as well, in a way, with the festival and everything, which is sadly not happening this year. But
yeah, it's a funny feeling in town right now, because obviously we should be,
yeah,
bang right at the beginning of it, and it's odd to go up the Royal Mile or to go to George Square and things, where right now would be a proper hub.
yeah. It's a tradition for me to go every year. I'll be Edinburgh Festival. You're looking at all your shows in advance. You know, because the book comes out, and then you know about people who are doing stuff, and so you start making your list like really early and trying to fit it all in. And like I've done it where I've seen like 5 shows in one day. It's knackering, but it's such a joy. And then you've got the free fringe, so there's all the free events that are happening at the same time, and then there's music. It's not just theatre, and there's comedy, and there's lots of stuff happening in the Princess Street Gardens and all that sort of stuff. And there's just such a buzz and an atmosphere, and it is really sad to think it's just not happening this year. And it's one of my favourite times to experience Edinburgh is during that time.
You must have played the Fringe.
I've never played the Fringe.
Really?
In my whole never. I've been offered a couple of times, but it was never the right project, and it was never the right timing. So
Right.
I've ended up not actually doing it. I'd love to do it with the right project at the right time, but it's just not, the stars have not aligned. It's the same with Panto. I've never done Panto either, which I'd love to do. And sadly, again, that's something that's not happening, which is another kind of, I would say, very Scottish tradition.
Yes, it really
is Panto. It's kind of the heart of Christmas.
Yeah.
And again, it's something that's not happening this year. And yeah, that's
It's
quite a...
Because through here at the King's Edinburgh, there's a core of 3 that have done the Panto for about the last 20 odd years: Grant Stott, Alan Stewart and Andy Gray. And I've spoke to all 3 of them with these. I just spoke to Andy Gray just a day or so ago as well. But all of them were before they said Pantos weren't going to happen this year. So we were all really, hopefully we're going to be okay. Hopefully we're going to be okay. And then I spoke to Andy. He's like, yeah, we're still positive. And then literally the next day it got announced. And it is a shame. All these, I know Pantos happen all over Britain. But a Scottish Panto, it's got a proper character as well.
There's something very different about a Scottish Panto. I think it's just got such heart and humour, and I think there's something about Scottish humour in particular that's very specific and unique.
It really is.
And that really feeds into Panto and Scottish Panto. And it was kind of, when you're kind of looking at, with everything the way it's been, you were kind of looking, well, Edinburgh Festival's cancelled, we get that. The next hope of joy was coming from Christmas and the Panto, and that would have felt like things were normalising, kind of renormalising a little bit. But at the same time, we've got to acknowledge why it's not going on and respect that wholly and completely. But yeah, it's hopefully we get all these things back next year, and then anybody that wants to visit Scotland should come around those times, where if it's a summer visit, they should definitely be doing Edinburgh Festival, and if it's a winter visit, they should be definitely going to a Panto if they're in Scotland.
I'm trying to think of the best way to describe a Panto to anyone from anywhere in the world that's never been to them. I'm like, yeah,
it's like a fairy tale with a madcap twist that features all the modern songs in the charts. With catchphrases and with catchphrases and yeah.
I think well I've got you as well. It's we've got Edinburgh and Glasgow have got a weird friendship rivalry.
It's yeah.
Frenemy thing, isn't it?
Yes. But I think it's all in good fun. I take it all in good fun anyway, because I have a real love of Edinburgh, to be honest.
I'm the same the other way about. I've got a proper love of Glasgow, and when you do bump into someone's like, oh, I'm like, no, Glasgow's great, or at least
it's fine, but Glasgow is the best, just so you know.
I mean, you're lucky you're on the other side.
I'm only messing, but
I do remember a little while ago, I don't know if this was true, but I remember hearing a rumour that they swapped Glasgow and Edinburgh cabbies. They got a load of Edinburgh cabbies and gave them the basics and a sat-nav. You go to Glasgow, and I got a Glasgow cabbies and gave them the basics and swapped them round. One, so they could learn a little bit about, the other city, so they could promote it to Edinburgh in their cablet tours. And two, to stop them digging down the other cities and going, oh, don't go to Glasgow, stay in Edinburgh. So the two of them could be a little bit banter between them and make it a little bit more, no, I don't want to say friendly, but less competitive.
I think most of the time it's kept as just good fun, isn't it? It's just good fun.
Oh, it is. And I think coming down to it is what you're saying as well. I mean, there is a Scottish humour which is quite unique, but I'm going to go a bit further and say that the Glasgow humour, this is a bit controversial from an Edinburgh person, but I think the Glasgow humour is funnier.
Well, it's interesting as well, because I work as a voice coach as well as an actor, and I do a lot of accent training and I work in different accents and stuff like that as well. One thing I've realised is I'm definitely a lot funnier in Glaswegian. I'm definitely funnier in Glaswegian.
I definitely think the Glasgow accent as well, it lends itself to jokes a lot better than the Edinburgh accent. I know we're kind of going on a tangent here a little bit, but I think you're right. I think the Glasgow accent, the rhythm of it, lends itself to a punchline, delivering a punchline or a sarcastic line, way better than an Edinburgh.
I think as well, we've birthed a lot of amazing comedians. Of course, Billy Connolly being the ultimate,
When you try to think of Scottish comedians, everyone that's mostly come to head, bar one or two, with Daniel Sloss, but most of them are Glasgow.
Yeah.
Kevin Bridges, Billy Connolly. I don't know where Frankie Boyle's from.
Pretty sure he's Glasgow. Pretty sure.
I'm sure he is.
I mean, I've met him and I've worked with him. That's terrible. I should know. I think it's Glasgow. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure. I want to claim him anyway. Let's just claim Frankie as well.
You obviously have a few, but I definitely think when you think of Scottish comedians, you're right. It's your end of the woods that they tend to come from. And
there's a great comedy circuit here. There's a great community of comedians here, male and female comedians here. I mean, Janie Godley's just the business, and she's just boss. I just love her so much, and so we're lucky. We've really born a lot of great Scottish comedy just right here. So.
You really have. So if someone was coming here, I'm going to try to steer us back a little bit. If someone was coming here, is there a sort of a top tips that you would say to people? Look, if you're going to come, here's things you have to remember about Scotland.
To remember,
well, any sort of top tips for anyone thinking of coming over.
Top tips, I would say, is really, if you're visiting Scotland, take the opportunity to experience a little bit of both city life and the landscape. Divide your time and have a travel through. Don't just go right. Much as I love Glasgow, I'll just come to Glasgow. Everybody's welcome. Do you know what I mean? But don't just limit yourself to staying there. I would do a tour. I would invest the time and travel around and go to all the sort of nearby different places. Go to places, or even if you base yourself somewhere that is located for travel. Glasgow's great for that because it does give you the opportunity to travel out to other places. You're not having to drive for hours and hours and hours, to get to other places. And I would spend the time, I would take the time to kind of tour and travel, get an experience of city life, Glasgow, Edinburgh, then get yourself, if you go to Oban, then you'll get all the surrounding isles. If you get yourself across to Balmaha, it's not that far away, experience a couple of hills, there's all the different beaches, and I would do that. I wouldn't limit myself to just, right, that's where I'm going and that's it. I would allow a little bit of a tour and a trip around, and then it depends on what you're into, right enough. If you're into more, restaurants, bars, events, Glasgow and Edinburgh are your main hubs, although there's other places that are great as well. And then if you're into more of the rural sort of landscape kind of aspect, then make sure you get a couple of hills and a couple of beaches. And yeah, I think Scotland has enough to offer no matter your tastes, I would say.
Yeah, we're very lucky in that sort of way, really.
Yeah, and then in terms of, you'll always be made welcome. You'll always be made welcome. I think we're a friendly bunch, and
you know what? That's you've hit the nail on the head there, really, because a lot. Again, I'm going to go back to some of the lovely comments that I've been lucky enough to have from people around the world who watch the channel, and for the ones that have been, they've always said they've been made so welcome, no matter where they are. If they've came to Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Dundee, right up to Wick. They're all like, you know what, everyone's sort of, yeah, and you come, go and have a look at this and have a look at that, and happy to tell a story. We're proper storytellers. I think we are very welcoming in that sort of way.
Yeah, definitely. I think we really are. And then also, you've got to sample local cuisine, you know what I mean? Have your deep fried Mars bar and your your haggis supper or whatever else.
I only tried the deep fried Mars bar for the first time a little while ago, not that long ago. I think it was the beginning of lockdown, because at the beginning I wasn't sure how I was going to try to keep things going with the channel and things. So I was like, right, I will cook a deep fried Mars bar at home. You want to know? It was lovely. I loved it.
Look, you deep fry anything, and it's brilliant. Isn't there that guy? What's that guy's name? He's brilliant. Does he not have a whole thing where he just tries deep frying food and tasting it and letting you know? He's a Scottish guy, and he's got I can't remember his name, but it's quite good. And he deep fries things, and then he lets you know how it tastes. Because I think pretty much the argument is you can deep fry anything and it will taste pretty good.
Yeah, he's not wrong though. No. I love, and I know that there's going to be people watching this who have never heard of this before. I love a deep fried pizza.
Oh, I haven't done that in years.
I had a first last week, and in about 4 months, because half of them were shut. And then I was sitting here one day, and I was like, I want a chippy. I really want a chippy. So I went. I got a deep fried pizza, not a battered deep fried pizza, which I know you can, some people like, but I just like a deep fried pizza. And I sat there, and honestly, proper joy. Proper joy. I was like, oh, that is so nice.
I don't think I've done that since I was at school, because we used to go down to the chippy at lunchtime. There was a time where we would go down to the chippy at lunchtime, and that's what we'd get. We'd get the deep fried pizza at lunchtime.
So when you were younger, we never really got a chance to explore it. Apart from going out in Glasgow, did you get taken around Scotland a lot?
Not massively. I remember it was usually what it would be is like my parents kind of looking back at their own childhood. Like my mum grew up in Peterhead for a time. She died Peterhead. She was there for about a good few years, and so she took me to show me where she grew up. For a time in Peterhead, and that was the first time I'd ever been there. One place I've not been that I always do want to go to is Campbelltown, because that's where my gran grew up, and I've always wanted to go and look at the house where she grew up, because she used to talk about it all the time. Campbelltown, it's all I would ever hear about, and I've just never had the opportunity to go there, so I would love to do that. But mostly that's what it was about for us, was like we'd go to places where my parents had maybe grown up or experienced or whatever. And then my childhood, when I was really young, my grandparents lived in Easterhouse, so that's where I was playing in Easterhouse and climbing up the dikes and all that nonsense. And then
I'd mention that, because I grew up in the same place my parents grew up, and where their parents grew up, you know what I mean? So I never really had much of that, being able to sort of explore a family history in that sort of way. That's cool.
Yeah, it's just kind of, you learn a lot, like especially with the Peterhead visit, because that was totally different, because that was kind of my mum's middle of her childhood. Like she went to live with her grandparents for a time period in Peterhead, so it was a real contrast to Easterhouse if you think about it. She grew up in Easterhouse and then went to live with grandparents in Peterhead, and there was just a real contrast of environment, and so it was fascinating for me to kind of see, because you've got all the boats down there.
Yeah.
and everything, and just seeing the house where she grew up down there, and was it down there or up there? You see, this is the bad thing when you ask me, because my geography is shocking. I would be the worst tour guide ever because I have the worst geography. I'm lucky I know my left from my right. My brother was actually trying to teach me this the other day. He's like, Kirsty, come on, tighty righty, loosey lefty. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He went, you know, you're screwing a top off. He's like that. Tighty righty, loosey lefty. Still, I'm like, at my age, still learning my left from my right.
Hand there in front of you, and then that's an L.
Yes, I should. Well, I would get people lost. That's one thing I would do. I would get people lost. I can talk about places I've been and tell you that they're nice. Can I tell you how to get there? Not really. No.
There's a great advert on TV. I can't remember what it was. I think it's for the RBS actually, and just it's talking about Scottish culture, and it's going and we're friendly, and you get two tourists with just a Scottish guy giving directions, but going off. And you go down there, and then you head to there, and then you hit the church. Now, don't go to the church. Church is lovely. It's got a great area. But then you go down, you go left, and then you see if I hit it. And we do, direction-wise, we go off on a banter the whole time.
Yeah, it's always good if you can have like a significant like landmark or something. What can you see? And I'm always like that. I can't see anything. I'm one of those people, like people go, did you see that? And I'll be like, oh, and just pass me by.
That was my dad. I used to go out with my dad on a Saturday quite a lot because my dad worked Monday to Friday, and he usually got home quite late. So a Saturday was the day that, you know, that was my dad's day when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And we'd go around town and we'd do something. But I never learnt my way around town, even though I was always with him. And even now, I know some streets' name, but generally I'm a bit rubbish with street names. I kind of have to double check where I am. But I know things by places. And it was only when I grew up and then I learnt to drive and I started to explore myself, I would get flashes of my dad taking us here and taking us there. And I used to think that was miles apart. And then I'd be driving myself and I'd be like, oh, that's there. I have no idea. It's funny, all these little things that come back to you.
Yeah, it's mad, and how, you know, you see things so differently when you're a kid because everything is much bigger, you know, everything seems much bigger and so much more like, when I went back down to the Barras like a couple of years ago, it was such a different feeling to when I went down there as a kid and what the atmosphere was like and how bustling and busy and big everything seemed and how thrilling and exciting it seemed just to go and get a freshly made donut. I mean, it's just kind of amazing that kind of, you know, I guarantee if I went back to Peterhead again now, it would be different again.
Yeah.
From this experience. And I do want to do that actually because I know my mum wants to go back. So I'd like to do a trip to Campbelltown and Peterhead and just experience kind of looking at, and it won't be the same as when like my gran grew up there. It'll be completely different. But for us growing up, it was mostly day trips. It was mostly like, oh, it's a nice day, we'll go to Largs Beach, or it's a nice day, we'll drive over to Troon and spend the day there or whatever. It was more like, and that's where I discovered how Scotland had these lovely beaches that you could drive to, and that everything was so kind of nearby, and not far to travel. I mean, even the drive to Oban, I think, is 2.5 hours, something like that.
Yeah. Truthfully, we're not a big country with a big heart, really, aren't we? With some incredible sights to see. It's kind of like what you were saying, how people should come and go to Edinburgh, go to Glasgow, but don't be afraid to explore all these other places. I mean, we're not big, but it would take you forever to see some of the incredible things we've got to see.
Oh, yeah. And especially when you get out and you start doing the hills and stuff.
Yeah.
You know? But the fact that it is feasible to drive there within just a few hours, that's the thing. If you come and visit Glasgow, right, and you spend some time and you get the city buzz and, you know, live music, comedy, restaurants, all the buzz, and then you take a drive to Oban for 2.5 hours, or you take a drive to Balmaha, which is even less time, you could go up Conic Hill, or if you're driving to Oban for the 2.5 hours, then you've got Iona and all the other surrounding isles, and that's on the ferry, and that takes no time at all. You jump on the ferry, you go there, have the day there, and then get the ferry back. You know, so you can that opportunity to not be stuck in just one little nook of Scotland is fantastic. That you have that kind of opportunity to flit around comfortably, and flit around between having a city buzz and having nature and having beaches and hills and all these different walks, and then you've got the hidden gardens, and yeah.
You're right. Well, lucky I remember you made me pop back into my head. Then it was one of the first interviews I did on this was Ross King, and he lives in LA now. But he was talking about when he was a kid, a day out for him was just, like, let's all get the train and go through to Edinburgh, because he's a Glasgow lad.
Yeah.
But and then he says for people in America, they're like, oh, did you have to go for a few days? It's like, no, it's the train.
It's like, Glasgow, Edinburgh, was it 40, 45 minutes on the train? You're there. I mean, I've went there for a meeting and came back before, and yeah, I mean, what I would usually do with the festival as well, people are like, oh, do you stay in Edinburgh? I'm like, no, I get up first thing in the morning, I get the train, I spend the whole day, I get the last train home at night, and then I do it all again the next day, and I usually spend about 3 or 4 days or a week if I can, just seeing as much as I can, but I don't stay there because it's so accessible just to get the train. And it's the same if you want to go to St Andrews, or you want to go to Perth, or you can, or Dundee. I've went up to Dundee because the Dundee Rep's there, and they do, theatre there's fantastic. So again, I mean that's mostly end up travelling out because theatre, and then you see other things whilst you're there.
But then we're lucky that way, that what we do gives us the opportunity to see all.
Yeah, to see all these places within your homestead. It's right on your doorstep, and that's exciting. You can definitely, I mean, they talk about having road trips in America, right? You can so do that here. Get yourself doing the West Highland Way, do you know what I mean? Camp out. That's something to be doing. Get yourself one of those, what do you call them? What do you call them things? Camper van thing, or just pitch a tent and enjoy yourself.
I've seen myself sleep in the backseat of my car many times, so I could do that.
And you can look up at the stars at night, and be right in it. And I mean, that's the way to sort of experience it, I would say, is get your walking boots on and start walking about, and really just go from place to place to place, and see as much of it as you can. And because you will be able to take a lot in, even in a short space of time. You'll be able to take a good chunk of Scotland in, a day here, a day there, a day there. You'll not get it, but you'll get a lot out of that. You'll get a lot more out of that, I think, than just staying in the one place.
Yeah, absolutely right. Walking is something that I've only just really started to enjoy. And even, I mean, this is the centre of town thing yesterday, but yesterday I went out a walk along the Union Canal here in Edinburgh. Never really done it before. It was the first time I went, oh, let's do that. I did it for a video, went out for a walk, and I didn't even know that now it's linked back up to the Forth and Clyde going right through to Glasgow. I didn't know that was, relinked and things, even though I knew about the Falkirk Wheel, but I didn't know that that's what I did. And I only walked for a couple of kilometres. One, it didn't feel like I was in the middle of the city anymore. And two, it was the views even for that. It was stunning. It was great.
Yeah, I just think that's how we're so lucky. I mean, where I live, I'm quite semi-rural because I live right next to the Campsie Fells. So I can see the Campsies from my kitchen window, and then I'm like a very short drive and I'm right there.
Yeah.
Whereas it takes me 20 minutes, half an hour to get into Glasgow city centre. So I can go one way and I'm right in hillside, right in nature, beautiful, or I'm right in the heart of Glasgow in the buzz.
Yeah.
Then I get on a train and I can come through Edinburgh, and I can get the buzz of Edinburgh, and then come back to Glasgow, and then come back to my semi-rural quiet. And I've had the best of, do you know what I mean? So not only is it 4 seasons in one day, but you could do 3 different places, and and especially if you're going to start doing walking and you go from one area to another.
Yeah.
I would, that's, if any tips? If you want to visit Scotland, get your walking boots on, get out, have an explore, pitch a tent, experience nature, and then don't worry, you can still get a train over into the city and enjoy a bit of city buzz after that, and you'll have earned your pint. You know?
Before I let you go, I'm going to give you my difficult questions.
Oh, you mean they weren't the difficult questions? Oh God, help me.
Difficult choice questions.
Right. If this is a test in geography, I've failed already.
No, you're all right. This is just difficult choices for you. So, shortbread or tablet?
Oh, shortbread, because my gran used to make it.
See, my gran used to make the brilliant shortbread and brilliant tablet, and I've told both my mum and my wife's mum, neither of them know how to make shortbread or tablet. Or like,
oh, shame, for shame.
You're no having a wee Scottish lassie being born and her granny can't make shortbread or tablet. So both of them have been told, well, they've now only got 2 months now. I'm like, you need to learn.
You need to learn. These are the staples. You need to learn.
My gran used to, when she made it, and she used to make great shortbread, beautiful shortbread, but she used to get a fork and she used to puncture it.
Yeah, you have to do that.
And put her thumb all the way around to make a wee pattern. So God knows where she got that from, but that's what I can remember. I always remember the fork and the scoring, but the thumbs, just little marks, all little indentations all the way around, just to give her a wee sort of thing. It's these little things that just stick with you, innit?
Yeah.
Right, iron brew or whiskey?
Iron brew these days.
Really?
It used to be whiskey. I mean, I used to be a big whiskey. I don't drink now, but I used to drink whiskey. I used to love, and then it was like, well, do you stick to the Scottish whiskey or do you shift over? So here, if you'd have asked me in my 20s, I would have said the whiskey. But you're asking me now when I'm a bit older, so I would say the iron brew.
What sort of whiskey did you enjoy, or did you just not really know?
I went through phases, but I ended up sticking with Dewar's for a long time.
Okay.
Dewar's on ice. I used to I don't know what I thought I was, but I was living in New York at the time, and so whenever I got a New York bar, I thought, well, I'll have my Dewar's whiskey and write poetry and
that sounds brilliant.
Smoke my cigarettes, and yeah, it's a whole different life now. Now I'm up hills and clean living, and
I'm the same. I'm exactly.
That's what happens.
Haggis, neeps and tatties, or mince and tatties?
Oh, if I was still a meat eater, I would be having the haggis, neeps and tatties every time. Although growing up it was mince and tatties. You would go to my gran and granddad's and without fail you would, at least, if you weren't getting mince and tatties, you were getting stew and dumpling, you were getting your fry-ups, but mince and tatties was a big one growing up. So maybe on a rethink, I would say mince and tatties for nostalgia.
But you can get proper, good veggie haggis now.
You can.
Because my other half, she's a veggie, and every year, at random times as well, but at Burns we always make sure we have haggis. And I always make a point of trying her veggie haggis.
It's brilliant, yeah, it is good. Usually around Christmas, New Year, I'll end up with a veggie haggis at some point during Christmas or New Year, or when the whole Burns thing's happening.
Yeah. In fact, I know some people that use haggis as stuffing instead as well. And again, for people like Kirsten yourself, she loves stuffing, veggie stuffing, obviously. But if it's a side of veggie haggis as well instead of the stuffing, it works just as well.
Yeah, it does.
Square sausage, well, not as good for you now that you're.
No, but I can still objectively. I have experienced these things. I did live through it.
Square sausage or black pudding then?
Oh, square sausage. Yeah. There's a really good vegan square sausage. If I don't know if I should be promoting Rose and Grant's, or I'm allowed to promote places. Rose and Grant's is a great little place, and they do the best vegan square sausage I've ever tasted. So if you're looking for a vegan one, that's the best one. But square sausage, back in the day, no question.
That's a proper Scottish thing as well, a square sausage.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if you get it anywhere else. I genuinely don't know if you do. I don't know if that's a proper us thing. I can't think of it. I can't think of anywhere else. I'm sure people will be going, what's a square sausage? Right, last but not least, Tunnock's tea cake or caramel wafer?
Oh, I would have been a caramel wafer person, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I do love the Tunnock's tea cake wrapping. Isn't there an artist as well? Names escape me. I've done that again. But there's a brilliant artist and she does a whole range of like tote bags and different things. It's all references the Tunnock's tea cake design.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They're brilliant. I don't know how you'll find her, but her stuff's brilliant.
You know what though? Do you remember last year all over Scotland they did the Ur Willie statues?
I got my picture taken with one, had to.
But there was one here in Edinburgh, and it was just completely covered in Tunnock's tea cake wrappers. That's how they decorated it. So I bet you it was that artist, because obviously they went to lots of Scottish artists.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I just know I've seen a lot of her designs, and they're fabulous. I wish I could remember her name. That's another thing I'm bad at, names.
I'll figure out who it is, and then I'll put a link in the bottom of this video, so if people want to check out who it is, by the time you're watching this, I'll figure out who it is.
You'll play detectives. Tunnock's tea cake design artist, is she Scottish? Kirsty says she's brilliant.
That's the whole review.
That's the whole Google search.
Kirsty, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
It's been brilliant. Thanks for having me.
And there you have it, guys. Wasn't that lovely? Kirsty is absolutely lovely. It's been about 10 years since I had the opportunity to work with her, but she was genuinely lovely and so kind and generous to spare some of her time to come and chat with me today. You know, you always know how grateful I am for anyone to spare their time. So thank you so much, Kirsty. Again, if you enjoyed that, guys, please remember to hit that subscribe button, leave us a like, leave a comment, and till next time, keep yourself safe. Bye, humans.